Ms. Shilpa Jain Balwali to join us for the presentation. Right from the traditional structures which exist to the modern day contemporary homes, comfort and well being are important parameters in architecture and design. Now, Ms. Shilpa Jain Balwali, who has been patiently waiting for her turn, is going to talk about design for well being. Ms. Shilpa Jain Balwali is the partner and principal architect at Studio Osmosis. Shilpa has graduated from Academy of Architecture, Mumbai in 2001, pursued her master's in architecture, and further specialized in healthcare design and systems at Texas A&M University. Shilpa has been awarded the Young Achiever 2013 by Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. So let's welcome Ms. Shilpa Jain Balwali.
Just a little bit background. I think you've already given us a bit of an introduction, and Studio Osmosis is based in Mumbai, and we're 11-year-old practice doing architecture, interior design, and pretty much across the board, across India. And I just want to touch up today a little bit on, since we're talking about traditional, contemporary, what we feel and what really ties everything, whenever it was done, is basically why are we designing? We're actually designing for well-being and happiness. And how do we, measure these things, or how do we sort of say that, this is what we're actually looking at now? When we talk about health, we're usually thinking about mental health, and it's always related to hospitals, and either it's physical health or somebody's mental health. But health actually is going to be all of your aspects of your surroundings. So if you're talking about a complete physical, mental and social well-being, and you have to be feeling good and also functioning well, and that is related to your environment around you. And there's a lot of research that has been done in the subject of how your surroundings, how your environment can actually affect your mental health being and make you feel better, whether you're in a residential space, your workspace, going out and chilling with your friends, all of that stuff. So definitely we as architects and interior designers are going to affect that a lot in the way we approach our designs. Because my background is also in healthcare design, to bring that up into all of our other aspects kind of became like a very obvious thing, because the way you do patient-centric design in hospitals, we are actually trying to apply user-centric design, whether it comes to your leisure, your fitness, meditation, the way you're working, the way you're living, all of that. I think these are the key aspects that all of us as designers always think about, what calms us, what will heal us in an environment. Are we looking at greens, taking the outdoors to indoors? In a space like Mumbai, there's no space to do, that many outdoor spaces in the residences here or the workspaces here. So how do we bring it inside? How do we introduce daylight into our spaces? What is the right way of doing your acoustics and thermal comfort? Or, what is the indoor air quality that we are providing? What are the kind of materials that we are using, where we are actually going to be spending so many hours of our day, if it's an office or any other space. And some of the attributes that we look at, which again, the origin is, a lot of research has been done very specific to healthcare design, but it actually goes and applies to pretty much everything that you design, whether it's a mall, whether it's a leisure kind of a space, or you're talking about hospitality. You're basically talking about right circulation, you're talking about wayfinding. You're always going to feel better if you know where you have to go, versus being confused in a mall and sort of feeling very, not disoriented. So the way you're planning that, the way you're following the building codes, the way the entire building is operating, for example, the air conditioning system, the cooling, or the natural ventilation that has been provided. So all of these design attributes actually end up becoming key factors into your mental and physical well-being for the person that is using the space. And what's also very important is, what Shelley was also talking about. How do we merge functionality, flexibility into our design? How do we not just design for today, but design for, maybe 10 years later, or even more if it's a building, we already know, and there's a lot of research that is done that, if I have a view from a, hospital room, to a green space or to a garden, the patient will heal and actually recover much faster than a room which has absolutely no view, or a really bad view. So that itself is something that we kind of come back and apply into the way we design. So this entire aspect, a lot of research is done where it's called the positive design framework, and we're talking about basically designing for virtue, designing for pleasure, and designing for personal significance. So when you're designing for personal significance, imagine if you're talking about your workspace. How do you feel encouraged to meet your personal goals? How do you feel better about improving your skills? If you're designing a child's room, how are you actually encouraging him or her to pursue what he wants to do, rather than kind of get the other way around? Or when you're talking about pleasure, you're talking about all the hospitality aspects, or how do you actually de-stress somebody when you bring them into an environment rather than wire them up more? Again, these are the key aspects that get triggered. The elements we already know, when you're introducing things like water, if you're talking about ceiling heights of spaces, natural light, colors, what are the senses that are actually engaged? You're talking about engagement, excitement, creating an interest. How do we actually relax them, and how do you sort of de-stress the person? So this would also decide what kind of colors you're using, what kind of lighting you're actually giving. If you're in an environment which you're going to be saying that I need the person to focus, that lighting is very different from I need the person to sort of de-stress and meditate or have a sort of low time. So it's very important how we choose the right colors, the natural light. The ceiling height can actually make you feel better or worse when you're in a space. So the way, the 5 aspects that the mental health at UK has discussed, how you can actually encourage well-being in any space, is having people connect, give, take notice, keep learning, and be active. And how do we do these with our spaces that we create? How do we make them feel connected to the space? How do we make them give the want of, give that feeling of noticing things around you, keep them observant? How do we keep them interactive? And most importantly, active. For today's world where we are, pretty much continuously glued to our phones or internet, how do we actually encourage them to sort of walk around or take a walk outside into the outdoors? Also constantly observe around us, keep learning, because that eventually is going to be the mental health, the well-being of the person. So I'm just going to jump between some of our work and our projects where we have touched upon few of these aspects, the 5 aspects that I just spoke about. So it's going to be like a very quick jump where I'm just going to talk about the key aspects that we just spoke. For example, if you're designing street furniture, we did the street furniture where we said that it can be actually a modular kind of furniture which can be incorporated in different kinds of urban settings. You're actually encouraging a lot of interactivity, you're encouraging flexibility, you're encouraging people of different age groups to use it. So we have designed this particular piece of furniture for different settings. It could also be used in a mall, it could be used in a public space, but that's what we need in our public spaces, rather than just having an entire space but not having specific areas or zones that we can actually have people use it better. So just a little more detail on that, where we worked out, that you can have greens, you can have some sort of lighting that's included. How do we actually make it modular, that it can be transported to different settings, different places, and also sort of include maybe solar as part of it, so that you can use the sun to generate the energy itself for it. This is a design concept for a bungalow that we were working on. And again, here, the way the integration of the site and the integration of the topography itself kind of lends to the fact that, you create these interactive spaces so that people are actually going to be sort of connected between these different levels, creating terraces, using natural materials. And how do you actually make them active into these spaces? So you're actually using the staircase, the levels, but not making it boring for them. They might, the way it is designed, where you would want them to sort of walk through these spaces which are creating these interest spots, whether it is greenery, whether it is giving them the views. And incorporating those steps of well-being that we just discussed. This is a space that we did in Pune, which is called the Rescue Center for an NGO. And again, inclusivity is not just for the humans. There are spaces that you need to make sure that are animal friendly, or where you have pets and they actually have spaces for themselves where they can carve or they can create. So we have to organically create those spaces where we are actually letting them interact in those spaces, and how the animals as well as the humans can actually sort of be together. So this was actually done where you had all kinds of pets and different animals that could sort of just be in that space. There were trees that were maintained in the original courtyard, so that that familiarity of the original space was there. Most of these materials were actually recycled or reused or donated, and the entire structure was made from that. So the entire aspect of sustainability, but inclusivity was like a very important aspect for the project. Again, where we do a lot of projects, of course, in Mumbai, and like I said, the outdoor spaces are very less. How do we actually incorporate greens or biophilic design or flexibility in workspaces? So we did this space for a fintech center, which is a very opposite industry. Usually you'll think of finance and you'll be like the typical desks and everything. What we did here is created very flexible work desk settings, different interactive spaces where the employees themselves are part of the design. So if you see that column there, we actually got them to do their artwork, which could be changed over time. Their pictures were sort of put up on the wall, so they could be flexible on that. They actually had spaces here where you could just chill, work in different ways, interact, have a lot of events, So it was very casual and yet giving them the work atmosphere. But the whole aspect that this is going to actually make them focus better, make them work better, give them a better work environment, and also have a lot of flexibility in where you're sitting today or tomorrow. The company actually had encouraged the give aspect where, they had kept this box. We designed a space where they kept this box where you could just pick up whatever food you want and put whatever money you would like to. So there was no vending machine concept. You could donate as you like. And, the whole aspect of trust and honesty then sort of comes in the employees, and which is a very important aspect of the design. So just some of the green aspects for that. Again, post-COVID, we decided to create concepts for these workspaces where, you have nuclear families working from home. There is no kind of demarcation with your kids around and everything else. How do we actually merge a child workspace, flexible spaces, and also your collaborative spaces all in sort of one area? So we had created these concepts where it's actually, all these aspects can be designed together in a space where you can create different zones, but you can also have these central areas where you can do it sort of as a family or together or as collaborative spaces. Again, these are just some examples of the greens and the way the natural light can be incorporated to create workspaces for home, or just your cozy corners in the home spaces, bringing in natural light. That particular workspace where you have your work, your chill, your collaborative aspects. So all in a day's time, you can do end-to-end all of these things. And the fact that you are actually interacting with the nature outside, or you could step out any moment of the time. Designing for kids, like I was saying, when you're doing spaces for kids, it's very important to give them their personal spaces. So what we believe is actually freeing up the walls for them and letting their artwork or their work do the talk. So for example, if this child here had medals and things like that he achieved, we created a space for that, so that can be something that can encourage his skill. Or, if they're into some particular activities or reading or music, you're actually creating spaces for that. Outdoor spaces inside homes, how do we actually bring green inside homes? Even if the space is small, how do we actually create space where the families can sit, interact, give the right mood lighting? Again, lighting plays a very, very important role for this entire well-being, whether you're creating, in the daytime you have natural light, but in evenings and nighttime, how do you give that right mood light that people actually interact with each other? So this particular corridor on the left, if you see, we did this for a residence where you have these dead corridor spaces. How do we actually personalize a space or create a sense of belonging? So we took the family story and the city life story and we incorporated this entire graphic art, where the kids are sort of caricatured into this art. So it's this entire story that you're creating for that space, and it kind of becomes a talking point for your house anytime somebody visits, and it's the memory that you're sort of creating for yourself. So other than the regular memory walls that we do with pictures, there could be other interesting ways of doing that. But the sense of belonging to your space becomes very important, where you can say that this is my house, and there's a reason you don't want to leave it or come back to it. Again, how, when there is a sense of luxury, how do we actually define luxury? Like for us, we feel that luxury is not just about the materials or using expensive stuff. How do we bring in art, nature, natural light into that particular space? And actually that is what luxury, the real meaning of luxury would be, to give you that space where you feel at peace and you do not want to get out of that space ever. So like imagine having this kind of a bathroom. I don't think you would find any other space to be in. So we work on a lot of hospitality spaces also, and here again what we realized is that over time and after making so many mistakes about lighting in our beginning years, what we realized is it's so important. The kind of vibe that you give people in a restaurant space is got to be completely different from what they are going to be in an office or a home. So they need to unwind, and how are you going to make them forget about everything and everybody and actually interact? You go meet strangers in a restaurant, and just the right music and the right lighting can help you discuss things or talk with that stranger. And the moment you'll enter a restaurant which is probably bright or everything, I think that entire mood is just killed. So we did this socials recently during the COVID time, where we took Thane and its entire local concept of theater, and then we combined the lake and the greens from Thane and sort of brought it into this cozy space where people feel completely at home. And then of course outdoor spaces wherever possible, natural greens, because this is where you will really vibe, be yourself, kind of become at ease. So some more outdoor spaces wherever we have been able to do that. Color also plays a really important role. Sometimes going in for brighter colors actually helps you ease out, and sometimes going in for neutral colors will kind of say that this is a cozier space. So it's very interesting how the colors can change your mood and how you're kind of directing it. You want people to sort of have a party kind of mood. You will have a different zone versus like a fine dine and a quiet dinner. So I'm just going to end at this slide where we did this installation actually, where we call this reboot. And I feel like all of us right now in the last 2 years have realized that we need to do this, where like we're talking about basically blurring the lines between the indoor and the outdoor, and how with the immense materials that we are talking about, whether it was the traditional materials or the modern or the contemporary materials, how do we actually bring it down and kind of create this entire cycle of merging, where we sort of come back to the basics, or like how we can say that luxury is really about the well-being or the emotions of the time or the happiness, and how our spaces should be ideally able to create that for us. Thank you.